Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to Pastoral Homestead. Today is the National Day of Prayer, May the 5th, 2016, and I have the morning off, at least for the most part, and so I snuck over here to a lake right outside of Albuquerque. It's called Cochiti Lake. It's on an Indian reservation, and it's a kind of a little honey hole out here. It's a small lake. It's highly pressured. But right now is the spawn and the smallmouth bass and the largemouth bass, the walleye and the northern pike are all active at the moment. They say there's a few sand bass in here too, or white bass, and I have not caught one yet personally. But so the fish are here and they're active, and so I snuck over and I decided to get a little fishing in this morning before I head off to the National Day of Prayer rally that we have in downtown Albuquerque every year. I got over here and it's not what the weather said it was going to be. So it is 46 degrees. It's a little cooler than I thought it was going to be. And we have a north wind at it looks like about 5, 7, maybe even 10 miles an hour. And that's not good. North wind is usually not a good sign, but we're going to get out and try it nonetheless. I thought I'd give you a couple of rundown of what I'm going to be using today. Mostly, as far as power fishing goes, I like to use a spinnerbait. And I like to use a crankbait, and so I'll have a chartreuse and white spinnerbait with double willow blades, and we'll be throwing that around, and also a crankbait, probably a lipless crankbait that imitates a crawfish, so red and black Strike King lipless crankbait. So those will be the two power lures that I'm throwing today, and then also on top of that I'll be using a 3-inch original Mr. Twister whitetail grub. It's just a single tail whitetail grub. This bait has, it came out in the 70s, this little whitetail grub, and it's just about as plain and basic as you could get. But when it swims in the water, man, that tail just goes crazy. And for finesse presentation, slow day, cold day, a lake that's overly fished, highly pressured, this thing right here is a lifesaver. So I'll definitely be using that. And I just put that on a regular white jig head with a black eye. Sometimes I'll switch to a chartreuse jig head, just depending on condition. Also, I'll be fishing a drop shot. And before this past week, I had been using the Gamakatsu octopus hooks, 2/0 or 1/0, just depending on size, and they work really great. So if you have these, the little octopus hooks, they're fantastic. You just got to tie a Palomar knot so the hook sits upright in the water. But I found these, they're called spin shots, and I hope you can see that there. I'll try to get that better. And what this is it's got this little swivel connected to the hook already, and so it's got a way where you can tie to the top of the hook from your main line, and then on the bottom of the hook you can tie your weight on it from there, and it makes the whole process really easy. And then whenever you tie it on, your hook just stands up straight in the water, and you don't have to worry about the Palomar knot. You can tie an improved cinch or whatever you decide to tie, depending on your line and all of that good stuff. For the drop shot rig, I'll be throwing a power bait 4-inch red worm, just real plain, nothing special to it. It's called a power worm. It's a pumpkin seed. I found the smallmouth really like that, and so I'll be throwing some of that. And then also a 5-inch trick stick from Big Bite, and that is the watermelon seed with a little red speckle in there. Sometimes that red speckle kind of brings them out whenever they wouldn't normally come out. And then I found this robo worm for my drop shot that I've never seen before, and so I'm going to try it. It's called a hot tip, and it seems like a really cool little doodad. So 4-inch, 4.5-inch straight tail, definitely a finesse presentation. So we'll be trying that today, and that's the setup. And so we'll get out on the water, we'll brave the cold weather and the wind, and hopefully we can catch some fish. So Cochiti is a no-wake lake, so it takes me a minute to get across it, even though it is rather small. And on the east side of the lake, it is primarily flat and eases out into the water, so very shallow. And also there's some brush on that side. And on the west side of the lake is a canyon wall, so very steep, very rocky, and very deep on that side also, and that's where the river channel runs, is along that bank. So depending on what you're fishing for, depending on time of year, determines which side really that you want to fish on. So for you Albuquerque folks or surrounding area folks that ever get out here and fish, this time of the year for the spawn, they're going to be on the east side of the bank. It's warmer. The northeast end is flat. They've got areas where they can spawn. There's a lot of, not a lot, but there's some brush and structure over there for them. And so they'll sit off of the bank on the humps, on the deeper humps around that shoreline, and then sporadically they'll go up and spawn. Fish don't spawn all at the same time. So it's early May, and what you'll have is you'll have fish up on the bank spawning. You'll have fish out a little bit deeper on the ledges getting ready to spawn, and you'll also have fish going off to the even deeper areas where they're done spawning. So they're already in post spawn. So those are some of the things you can look for whenever you're fishing on a lake kind of like this, especially in springtime. Actually got a little bit of a wind change, switched from the north to the south, which isn't a bad thing, and that's what they were calling for to begin with. So I guess this morning, I don't know what happened this morning. So we had a north wind this morning, pretty strong, about 10-15 miles an hour, and now it's died off and it's switched to the south. There's a front coming in tomorrow, so I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll over here, and I'm going to fish one other side of this north end, and then we'll go hit the spawning beds before we got to load up for the day. So that's kind of the plan. Anyway, haven't had any fish yet. We'll adjust. We'll make a couple of changes real quick in tackle, and then we'll get back at it. So unfortunately, I've only got about 20 minutes left of my battery, and I forgot my spare battery. Pretty much par for the course for my videoing skills. They will get better, I hope, in the future. So the only rig I haven't tried is the drop shot, and the water is pretty stained. It's pretty murky, and the drop shot rig is really better, a lot better actually, clear water. So I'll try it, probably around structure where I know fish might be. What you want to do in murky water with that kind of a rig is drop it right on top of them. And if it kind of intrudes on their space, then they'll hit it. But you know, if it's 10, 15 foot off, or even 5 foot, they would have a hard time seeing it. So the rule of thumb is that a fish can see 3 times further than you underwater. So the water clarity on this side of the lake right now is about a foot, maybe a foot and a half. So they can probably see up to 5 feet, which isn't great for the drop shot rig. Doesn't make any noise or anything like that. So anyway, we'll try it and we'll see. And what I will do is I'll shut off the recorder, and if I happen to catch a fish, I'll turn it back on just so you guys can see, and you won't be able to call me a liar that way. Anyway, we'll give it a whirl. Well, I just got home and my battery ran down on the lake, and so just figures. What happened later in the day is I went over and fished some flats where the fish, hopefully what I thought were spawning. Didn't really find very many fish that were spawning, but a little white chatterbait. I threw that, and I threw it, and I threw it, and I threw it, and never did get a bite on this little chatterbait until I put a little watermelon blue with some speck in it, Senko, on the back of it. Just a half of one I happened to have in the boat, stuck it on there, and I caught 4 fish with it, 2 northern pike and 2 largemouth bass. And so I guess today is Senko De Mayo. I thought that was pretty good. So sometimes little bitty changes in presentation really works whenever you're fishing for any kind of feeding fish. So northern pike, bass, smallmouth bass, whatever it is. Sometimes just changing that presentation just a little bit really makes a lot of difference. So I don't know what about this Senko turned them on, but it did. And so I didn't get any video of that. I do have some pictures, or at least one good one. I'll put that on the video, hopefully right here. Hope that works. And you know, it wasn't a bad day. It was a beautiful day outside. It was wonderful to get out of the city and spend some time out in God's creation. So anyway, we'll go again sometime, and I'll take you with me, and hopefully we'll have some better video work in the future. So God bless you guys. Have a great, safe day. We'll catch you next time.